Welcome to the Business Growth Spotlight, where we shine the light and talk with business leaders from all over the world who are here sharing their expertise and wisdom so we can all grow together. I'm your host, Heidi Schalk, co-founder of HLH Growth Solutions, where we help businesses scale through strategic visibility, outside the box operations, and automations. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. I'm glad to have you here today. You're in for a special treat. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce my guest today, Stan Salot with Business and Quality Process Management. So welcome, Stan, to the podcast.
Thank you, Heidi. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's an honor to have you, and thank you for taking time out of your day to be here with me. Stan, I'm going to give everybody a little background about you, and then we'll dive right in. So, Mr. Stan Salot is an acknowledged expert in business quality environment, in business. Let me restart that. We're going to restart that, Stan, in 3, 2, 1. Stan, I'm going to give everybody a little background about you, and then we will dive right in. So Mr. Stan Salot is an acknowledged expert in business, quality, environment, health and safety, and process management, and has actively participated in the U.S. and international industry standards bodies. He is the CEO of Business and Quality Process Management, which consults for and trains companies in quality, environmental, and health and safety management processes, hazardous material mitigation and avoidance processes, counterfeit product identification, and avoidance and sound business processes. He has held technical and leadership roles in several IECQ and SAE advisory and working groups. And he has additionally served for 10 years as the president and chief executive officer of the ECC Corporation, which serves as the U.S. national member body of the U.S. National Committee, International Electrotechnical Commission Quality Assessment System for Electronic Components. You have been a busy man, Mr. Salot.
Yes, I agree with you.
So Stanley, can you tell us about Business and Quality Process Management, who you serve, and what inspired you to build your company?
It's an excellent question, Heidi, and it's something that I would say, in reality, I fell into it. I have actually started and run a number of companies. This one I've actually been doing now for 30 years. In fact, we're coming up on our anniversary of 30 years in November.
Congratulations.
So from that standpoint, it started, I would say, after military service. I wound up in a startup in Southern California, which was trying to make what was referred to as a telephone on a chip. And this was back in the day, long before the excessive, or not excessive, the large scale integration that we have today. We were talking about small ICs and integrated circuits. I wound up moving from part of the engineering team to what in those days was called component engineering, which simply stated was I found all the components that the engineers would use to build whatever they were building, which took me into a lot of supply chain management. And with that came suppliers who I needed to make sure were producing quality. Trying to keep this short, I went to another company and was actually hired as a component engineer, supply chain management. And from that, the director of quality in the company that I was in, which at that time was called Altos Computers, and we're dating now back to the 1980s. The director of quality came to me and said, "You've been doing a great job with what you've been doing. I've reached my 18 months. I'm about to be asked to leave," which is typical of quality management. 18 months in those days in Silicon Valley, if you were in a job more than 18 months, you were either exceptional or not worthy of transition to the next level.
Hmm.
So he invited me to take over his job. And that's what actually got me into quality. Fast forward from that, a couple of more companies. I got into a company called Logitech. Some people may know them.
I've heard of Logitech, yeah.
Yes, the famous mouse company. I still use Logitech mice and keyboards. The opportunity there was to implement what was called ISO 9001, which is a quality management system created mostly in Europe and started in the broad sense across the world, literally in 1990, 1992 timeframe. I led the implementation of ISO 9000. I was featured on a quality management magazine, Quality Digest to be specific, for Logitech. We promoted that, or they helped promote that development, implementation, and certification, which was publicized to about 80 to 100,000 readers. From that, I transitioned from that. My next stop was to another company for about 18 months. And then the Irish International, the National Standards Body of Ireland asked me to come in and run their Western region operations in the US for ISO 9000 and other international standards operations, both in sales and auditing. And after 3 years of that, I decided that it was time to start BQPM. And I've been doing that since, along with other things.
Yeah, like I said, you've been busy. Thank you for sharing your journey. I love hearing the story behind, along that you created along the way of how you got here. So, and I love when my guests are willing to share that. So thank you for that. Stan, most business owners think that processes create bureaucracy, but you built a career helping companies become more efficient through better systems. So why do so many organizations struggle with process management, and what impact does that have on their growth and profitability?
A very excellent question. And my answer to that is CEOs, management people in general don't like following rules. And particularly every situation that comes up appears to be different. And consequently, and I'm guilty of this myself, when it comes up, I look for the best answer at the moment. Instead of going back to the process that we created, that 9 times or 9.8 times out of 10 is the right approach to solving it. So when you look at management, you're actually looking at a couple of things. When you look at quality, most management looks at it as a cost, not a value, in the sense that we're not earning revenue, we're spending money. And one of the things that I emphasize in an engagement with clients is that you're either adding cost or you're adding revenue. So when you go to look at a quality issue or a quality process that you're talking about putting in place, is it adding cost or is it adding revenue? And if it's adding cost, then you have to justify that cost. Sometimes it just costs money. Most of the time, and the key is, can we make it such that it adds value instead of just cost? And if it can add value, then get out of your own way and take the right steps. But 99% of management looks at quality as something, it's like getting a tooth pulled. You know you got to do it, but I sure don't want to.
It's not going to be fun.
It's not going to be fun.
So one topic you suggested discussing and talking about is the concept of the virtual organization or hollow corporation, where companies outsource many of their core functions. Can you explain what that looks like and why more businesses are adopting it today?
Again, a very interesting and I would say most modern question, modern in the sense that technology, and I'm both to some degree happy to be part of technology development, and in other ways wonder if we're really going down the right path at times. Virtual has developed some real challenges. If I go back in my own career, when I was looking for parts to build whatever we were building, and just a little diversity here, at one time I was with a company trying to create a telephone on an IC chip, something today that looks like this. Back in those days, it took a 4x8 sheet of plywood for the layout of that telephone on a chip. One of the tasks I had in the same company was, back in the day, there was something called an acoustic coupler, a modem. You put the handset down inside. It was built in a mahogany box. In the mahogany box, we had to buy mahogany and have it crafted into a standard format for our devices. So a wooden box on the CEO's desk. The industry is broad, but in every case back in those days, I would meet with the people face to face, handshake to handshake, and discuss what we were doing and how we were going to get there. And in some cases, that was multiple weeks to multiple months to sometimes a couple of years. Today, I can't find anybody to talk to except a machine. And even when I think I'm talking to somebody, I quickly learn that it's not, even to the point of a phone call. Whether it's online or a phone call, eventually, can I talk to a human? And that has drastically changed the way we operate today.
Yeah.
And just a couple of points. Did a little research this morning. If I go back to 1980, the number of small businesses in the United States, the percentage of small businesses was 98 to 99%. The United States industry, or what the SBA, the Small Business Administration, they had it recorded as 98 to 99% of US businesses were considered small. And that's a business with 500 employees or less. Okay. 36.2% of those 36.2 million is what we're talking about for that 98 to 99%. Okay. Today, it's 99.9% of US companies fall into the category of small business. That also employs 46% of the workforce in the United States. And then we've got all the machines on top of that. And I have no idea how many of those we're talking about, if you count each one of those as a human, right, or as an individual. That information also, the last piece of this is that 43.5% of those small businesses make up, I'm sorry, those small businesses, 43.5% of the US GDP. Now put all that together, add AI in there, and it's just almost mind-boggling how we do business today, because we don't have that face-to-face, as we used to call it, press the flesh, that person-to-person interface, which makes it extremely difficult. I had a recent client, recently I had a client that was trying to reshore, bring back production of a product that was being made overseas. And I participated with them in trying to find US made parts so they could call it Made in America. It took about 8 months to find the parts.
Wow.
And most of it was hampered because you couldn't talk to the manufacturing engineer. You had to go through, actually, it wasn't so much AI. It was more the manufacturer outsourced to a virtual marketing and sales company. The virtual marketing and sales, meaning just a group of people, really knew nothing about what they were selling other than they were selling time on machines in a manufacturing environment. So we spent a lot of time trying to get to an engineer that we could talk to, and in some cases never could. Mm. So all we had to go with was, there's a small company doing marketing and sales, a manufacturer, and a buyer trying to get somewhere into that, the actual parts. And unfortunately, we never succeeded.
No, you didn't?
No.
Wow.
We could not find the parts at a reasonable enough price. And in large part because we couldn't work with the engineers as we had done for many other products in times past to get to a point where we could build it at a reasonable rate.
Wow. So Stan, I'm curious, what are the biggest, and we can break this down, what are the biggest strengths, weaknesses, and challenges of operating a highly outsourced organization? And if it's simpler for you in responding, we can start with maybe the biggest challenges and weaknesses and then go into the strengths.
Thank you, Heidi. The weaknesses, focusing a bit on that, is really the modern technology, the AI, and it actually started before AI, the transition from having a manufacturing, I'm going to pick on manufacturing because this can be manufacturing, banking, you name it, any company. But in regard to the weakness, we started transitioning away from, or maybe said differently, into outsourcing our marketing. We outsourced our accounting. We outsourced a lot of things that we can outsource. And that creates a difficulty in talking engineer to engineer, that face-to-face communication. That has become a combination weakness and difficulty particularly for small businesses. If I focus, we become a specialist. I can make you a product, a piece, an individual item, and somebody else can sell it to you, and all I have to do is make it. And while that sounds really good, the difficulty becomes that I can't talk to you. So if I'm engineering, if I'm designing, I can't bounce off new thoughts, new ideas. One example of this would be a client that we worked with, and we're currently working with. They make a product called vac lid. It's a lid. You're familiar with mason jars. The mason jar has a screw-on lid, has a piece of metal. The engineer that created this simply put a hole in the top of the metal lid. He invented a valve that's a silicon product, and trying to get that built. He spent a year and a half, 2 years trying to find somebody that would build it for him. He could find people that could do silicon products. But here in the US, it was one, we're talking a part that ultimately was very inexpensive, being 2 and 3 times the expense, because one, you had to go find somebody to make the mold, somebody to make the part. You had a outsourced sales marketing company that needed a little bit of money to run their business. So the long and the short of this, he worked in the US trying to find it. Because of my international supply chain work that I do as part of the company, we went to a source in Taiwan. It was a third the price. It was done in 2 weeks, and
Wow.
he's now in the process of doing marketing to sell the products. They're brand new. And part of what we do, we specialize in quality management, but that often leads us into business management, which often leads us into coaching. So it's a combination thing, which is why I like what I do.
Yeah.
It's diverse, but specific to the issues, those are the issues that come up when you have that segregation, that specialty thing, where you have great marketeers who do marketing, but the engineering and the manufacturing are separated, and you can't get to them directly. It's very hard to get to them directly, which is one of the things we specialize now in, is being that direct link, and we actually serve our clients by being that direct link with them. So that's a big part of the difficulty we see from yesterday to today. AI complicates it more, because now instead of going to, and I'll just pick on this, I come to you for business development from the standpoint of marketing and sales, for understanding how to do that. Now I have to go to AI first to find you, or get through the AI process to finally get to you and your staff to help me improve my marketing techniques. On the good side of it, I don't have to hire 5 or 6 people. I can use a machine. I can get answers 24/7. I mean, just like the numbers I gave earlier in this discussion, I got them in 5 minutes by going to my encyclopedia. Oh, sorry, that's called ChatGPT. It's no longer Encyclopedia Britannica. It's now ChatGPT. So the upside, more flexibility. I can find stuff all over the world quickly. The downside is I can't literally talk to the people I need to talk to, or it's difficult.
Yeah. So I'm curious about your growth. This client that you just spoke with, that you work with, has been with you for a really long time. You were saying, what, 1997? They've been with you since?
Actually, that's another client.
Okay.
The vac lid client is the last two years or so. And I think I can get away with this. Rico is the client that I started working with actually in 1995.
Wow.
Take that back, 1996, just after we started BQPM. And we implemented a quality management system with them, an ISO 9001 quality management system. And we totally automated the document control. We had software created back in 1995 that we put in place, and I helped develop the software. It wasn't my company, it was a different company, but we helped develop that. And we have been servicing them and that software since 1997. We take care of all the management of the software. The company that made it is out of business and has been since 1999.
Oh, wow.
The same software was used by IBM, the FAA, MOTS, Apple company. I mean, major corporations around the world originally had used it. But Ricoh Printing Company, that division that we work with, continues to use it, and we continue to support them.
So, and I love that you shared that. So thank you, because you have a very long-term client. And like you were saying at the beginning of our conversation, back in the day for certain consultants, like 18 months was your lifespan, and with that specific company. And now you're working with a business for, what does that put us at? Almost 30 years, something like that you've been working with them. And you've been in business for a for that long too. So I'm curious, what has attributed to your growth? Can you share with us some of the things that have worked for you as far as getting in front of your ideal clients, your people, to let them know you're here to serve them and in the way that they need you to serve them and support them?
I think the answer to that actually is a combination of passion, my own and my team's passion. The other aspect of it for the last, I would say, 10 to 15 years has really been referrals. Unlike many companies, our growth has slowed down. There's no doubt about that. AI has, in fact, made part of what we do something that anybody can go online and create policies and procedures and work instructions. It's become quite straightforward to do that from the quality management piece. The difficulty is now into the process and the coaching. It's one thing to have the documents, it's another thing to do the business. So in the early days, training was the major thing. We did advertising. Obviously, we had magazines. As I've shared in my intro, I actually had a radio show with Voice America, not Voice of, but Voice America, and reaching out through radio, reaching out through advertisement. But the biggest return on investment was really our training. And that was face-to-face in those days. That was classroom, Silicon Valley. We actually trained. One of the things I've done in my career is help create the lead-free international standard. The standard used internationally for auditing products, manufacturing companies, primarily engineering companies that make products today that are lead-free. In that process, we educated, and I use the term educated, trained, educated roughly over 45,000 people. And that was over a period of about 8 to 10 years. So the training initially was our main revenue generator, in the sense of it. Training was one piece, and then you almost always converted training into a contract with a client. And those contracts, in our case, anywhere from, I'd say the shortest usually was about 9 months. And the longest, aside from the ones I've mentioned, typically would be 3 to 5 years. So those are the things. Today, to be honest with you, I'm struggling a little bit. We do get our referrals, and our referrals keep the main staff where we want it to be. But the long term, if I were seriously trying to meet goals of growth, it seems like something in AI is the next step. But I still have a problem with the numerous phone calls I get that are really machines to start with, doing a pitch. And if I'm willing to say yes at some point, I'll get connected to a marketing person who will turn me over to an expert that can tell me something. So I'm going through those three steps. And maybe I'm a little old and crusty, but that doesn't feel good to me. Not today.
I thank you for sharing that. And I love what you say, because I'm on board with you in some of that, where AI, like you said, AI has a place. But when we want to talk to somebody, we want to talk to somebody. And it's really important that the businesses that are using these systems, I'm not saying don't use them.
No.
Because there are benefits, like you said.
Yeah.
If I want to call and make an appointment and I need to get my child into a doctor, or I need to get into a doctor, and I'm a working 9 to 5 person, and it's hard for me to call during their office hours, then I need to book after hours. And they have these online portals and all of that. But for me, I don't like to book online. I like to do it on the phone, because I could be doing something else while I'm talking and booking my appointment. So having that response system is fantastic. And if I'm calling during business hours and I want to talk to somebody, I want to have that opportunity to say, can I speak to a human? Absolutely. I'll put you right through. I think that's the piece that is missing with some of these AI agents, is that they don't give you that opportunity until you say yes to their offer, to their first step. So I think that's where, and I'm with you on that. Like, if I want to talk to somebody, I don't want to spend 5 more minutes telling you my problem before I get on the phone with the human. And I don't think it's because you're old fashioned. I think it's just what a lot of people are feeling. So we're navigating this whole new AI landscape, and business has changed. Business growth has changed. And you had mentioned something like you've seen a shift in your growth, and you're not the only one. I've spoken with hundreds of people on this podcast, business owners, and there's a common theme that they're seeing business is changing. What worked for us as far as lead generation and referrals and all of that has changed, especially in the last year. I would say I'm hearing from people, especially in the last year, if not the last 2 years. I'm hearing like 2024 was good, 2025 was okay, and 2026 has been a bit of a different journey. And we don't want to just throw money at shiny objects either. We want to really know, okay, take our time to go, what is our next step? What's worked for us in the past? How do we keep leveraging that? And how do we bring something new in, and also understand that it's the right step for us to take if we're going to invest in that next step. So for you, I know the growth. What would be a success? If I could bring you back in a year, Stan, we could have this conversation again. What would success look like for you?
Success for me would be first, let me say that we allocate 25% of our gross revenue to marketing and sales. It's a number I've used throughout my career. Some CEO in one of the companies, the bigger companies that I worked for as an employee, stuck that 25% in my head, and it's been there ever since. So first off, 25%. What would be enticing for me is to know that if I'm spending 25%, I'm getting at least 2 customers, 2 new clients a month. 2 new clients a month more than takes care of by 25%. And that's almost regardless of what the 25% translates into financially. So that said, the goals we have right now is maximizing our marketing approach, so that we get 2 new clients a month and stay within a 25% bracket of our gross revenue, and do that without adding tremendous additional staff, which is the common theme. So how do we do that today? And that's the most challenging piece, because I could easily do that through training. If I trained 10, if in the past, if we had 10 people in a class, we would wind up with 2 clients. And our cost of putting on the class was well within, in fact, typically it was around 15% of gross revenue. So if I'm looking forward, that's what I'm looking for.
Perfect. And can you share with us how people can connect with you? So for those business, owners that are listening going, I need to talk to Stan and learn more about what he does, how can they connect with you and reach out to you?
The direct answer is it's stan.salot@bqpm.com. www.bqpm.com. I have to share this with you because it's another within the last year or so. AI, turns out that I got a call from a law firm. They needed an expert witness. And they said, when I asked them, because we typically ask, how did you find us? The answer to that was, we went to AI, said, ISO 9000 expert. We need one for doing a witness in a lawsuit. And that's how they found me. So I assume today that you could go to AI and say either BQPM or Stan Salot, and you'd find me that way.
Absolutely. And we're going to have all of Stan's contact information inside the show notes. So if you're driving while you're listening to us, don't worry about it. We've got you. They're inside the show notes. I'm sure you can find them on social. You can go to AI, as he mentioned, and go search for Stan Salot and go to, I'm going to pull up your website right now, which is bqpm.com. It's very easy. bqpm.com. If you're watching us on YouTube, Stan and I say hello. Thank you for being here with us. Grateful to have you here. If you know of anybody that would benefit from this conversation, we'd love for you to share it with them. Let people know Stan's here. Let him know his service is here. He's been around in business for a long, long time. So I know this conversation is valuable for those who are in the growth stages. I love when I talk to people. I love this podcast, and thank you for your time, Stan, because you have proof behind you of what you do and what you've done works. Granted, there's ups and downs in business. Things shift. COVID was one of them, right? The pandemic was a time where we all needed to pivot a little bit. AI is on the scene now. There's a lot of people that are like going, okay, how do we make that pivot again in order to grow with it? And you've been doing that for the last 30 plus years. So this conversation is definitely beneficial for people who are running a business and in the growth stages, maybe in the beginning growth stages, so they can hear from him and see what they should be doing to emulate his success. Success leaves clues. And obviously, Stan has been successful. If you're listening to us on your favorite podcast platform, same thing. If you're up for leaving us a review, we would love that. That helps the platform see that this episode and this interview is getting some action, and it will help support Stan and us in moving this interview out to more people on the podcast platform. So we would greatly appreciate that. Also, if you know of somebody that would benefit from hearing our conversation, please share it. Stan, before I go and we wrap up, is there anything that you'd like to say or share that I didn't get to touch on or we didn't talk about today?
Heidi, I think there's probably 10 years worth of conversation that we could have, but no, I think we've covered a lot today, and I greatly appreciate it.
I greatly appreciate you. Again, for those of you listening, go to bqpm.com. Make sure you go connect with Stan. Go look him up on AI. Oh, and Stan, you mentioned a great point. We literally just did an event. When this comes out, it'll be later since we've done the event, but literally yesterday we did an executive briefing webinar on AEO and the importance of setting your business up for AEO. Because back in the day, people were looking, and just recently, people used to go to Google to search. They're no longer going to Google to search anymore. Is your SEO important? Yes, it's still important. But now it's really important that you're understanding AEO and either working with someone that can support your business in becoming searchable and findable if it's not already. Like you said, that the lawyer typed something in and it pulled you up. And that's important. And there's certain things you need to be doing or should have been doing over the years to get you findable by AI. It just doesn't happen. So if you are wanting more information on that, for those of you listening, find someone, reach out to us, or go find someone in your area that can support you with that, because that is the next step in business. That's really important. And business owners need to start looking at at AEO and how to implement it inside of their business for business growth. So thank you for bringing that up. Thank you, Stan, for being here. I appreciate you. Thank you all for listening to Stan and I and being here with us. And I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Business Growth Spotlights.